The automotive industry has come a long way from the first connected car of 20 years ago. As the world's leading premium manufacturer of automobiles and motorcycles, BMW Group is taking full advantage of the cloud with software-defined vehicles, embedded systems such as ADAS, and elegant infotainment systems. Join us on All Things Automotive as we discuss the latest engineering research, innovation, and vision with BMW.
Hello, Christoph. Such a pleasure being here in Munich. Thank you so much for having us today in this wonderful place in BMW. So, can you tell us and our viewers about your role in BMW to start with, maybe?
All right. So, my role is Senior VP for Electronics and Software. So, my mission essentially is to make sure that the software-defined vehicle gets an appropriate definition, mind the pun, and that it happens in reality on the street, as we've done for the past 2 decades, basically.
The software-defined vehicle is kind of a buzzword right now in the automotive sector. It's super important revolution that is happening behind the scenes. And honestly, BMW is at the forefront of it, right? So you just enter a BMW vehicle and you really see that happening, the evolution of the infotainment system, clusters, different brands across the band. How did you get there? So what did you do to reach such level of maturity in producing software?
I think, in my view, one has always to stress is that although the term SDV is really new and fresh, creating things like this takes a lot of time. So we started building software kind of 20 years ago. We started gradually ramping up a skill base, but also defining a clear vision of what we want to do, where do we want to be BMW, where do we want to be part of an ecosystem, and basically step by step go in this direction.
And you implemented systems to do so in BMW, yes. I assume, and cloud is a part of it. Why do you think all these elements mix together to produce such level of quality and processes that you have in place?
I think there's 2 sides of it. One of them is really embedded systems. To create embedded systems at high quality is absolutely necessary, because if you create 1,000 features and you have one rotten apple in between, that wrecks it all.
Yes.
And therefore, we've always been very fussy having software guys at the heart of BMW that really care about the assets they're generating. We don't look software as a job, but more as an asset you have to be proud of, that you've got to caress. So the second thing is, what role is cloud playing in this game? I think it's kind of funny to see that 20 years ago, we launched the first connected car. And in those days, really connected servers were something that was sitting on top of the vehicle. It was something additional. Now that's changed completely. I think, with the cloud-first approach we've been following, I think the cloud is an essential part of virtually any feature. Let that be voice recognition. Let that be, for example, ADAS. ADAS always has to work autonomously. But if you look at ADAS from a customer point of view, a lot of what you experience is only possible because it's supported by a strong cloud-based services.
What is interesting for me, it's happening in all components of the car. Right? It's not just a single thing. So a powertrain or something else. It's really blending things together.
Yeah. So one thing we very consciously did is we separated the architecture into 2 parts. Those parts where we buy components from excellent first-tier suppliers, and core high-performance compute platforms where we really create these platforms, we really shape the software, we maintain it both in development as well as in the field. So I think what a lot of people see is the functionality sitting on top of that. What people, I think, appreciate much less are the digital foundations of it.
Yes.
And that's, what the SDV basically also means to me. Building operating systems, building toolings, creating a wealth of APIs that allow easy handling through developers. So basically, within BMW, we see 2 worlds. The digital foundations, onboard, offboard, and tooling-wise, and a happy crowd of developers working on top of those foundations.
So tapping into this community of developers that were not traditionally, playing for automotive or developing for automotive.
True. I mean, one aim we've always been striving for very hard is not to build completely new systems every 3 years, but rather have a continuous stream of software development and carrying over software from one generation to the next. and basically, ideally, not forking between what's in the field, code-base wise, and what's under development, but basically working from one stream. That's what makes developers happy. That's what focuses them on basically creating new stuff and just recreating what's been there before.
Sometimes people think about just developing, but developing a component automotive is developing a lot of testing, a lot of VAV. What you want to put in a car needs to be safe and tested, right? So, and thanks to this parity, they are detecting more bugs in the cloud, so shifting left all this operation, cost, quality, reduction.
And let me briefly poke into this, because that really resonates very strongly with me. You know, in embedded, people do a lot of the work actually working on the target, but that is one snag. You know, we are really heavily using continuous integration at ECU level. So we've got 65,000 machines running just in the CI process, including the test stages. Now that's wonderful. That's also wonderful for AWS, by the way.
Thank you.
But there's still one snag about this. We do, as I said, continuous integration at ECU level. We don't do continuous integration in the same extent at system level. And what you were just saying, you know, creating cloud parity for emulation of ECUs is just a prerequisite to actually make CI scale to the system level. You cannot have 10,000 cars sitting there running and executing software tests driven by a continuous development. That's one of the key drivers why we're really hot to see players like AWS actually build emulations of SoCs, of ECUs, work in an ecosystem together with first-tier suppliers, with SoC vendors, so that basically that's all there and developers can concentrate on doing their job. It's really an interplay between silicon vendors, companies like AWS, and last but not least the first tiers. They all kind of have to agree on a new working model to make that easy, to make it not a one-off heavy lifting, but part of the kind of continuous software development we are all doing hand in hand.
Yeah, so we touched briefly about the impact on SDV on the sector and how disruptive it will be, in my opinion, in a positive sense. But what's BMW take on it? What's the SDV vision in BMW?
We like to cooperate with top players, but we need to have an ecosystem on which to cooperate. We don't want to build the SDV ourselves. BMW is kind of, I'm certain everybody in BMW is kind of full of striving for innovation, full of energy, but you'll find very few people who say we build it all on our own. That's not what we would call SDV.
Yeah, that's an amazing vision. And one of the reasons the cloud started, one mantra that we use internally is to lift the undifferentiated heavy lifting in doing data centers or managing IT systems, right? I think the SDV is that moment for the automotive industry, right? Where I love it because it's all in the interest of the final customer. Final customers don't care about the tool that is used to build an experience for them. They care about the experience. So how can we refocus the creative energy that you have plenty here for that, right? So and I feel it really. So it's such an amazing vision to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Stefano. It was great talking to you, and we'll carry on this discussion about some of the details later.
Absolutely.